The housing crash of 2025 isn't some spooky forecast anymore. It's happening straight up, right now, right in front of everybody. All across the country, places that were bragging about growth a couple of years ago are suddenly drowning in endless listings, non-stop price chops, and sellers who look like they're one bad week away from full-blown panic mode. Home values aren't just dipping, they're straight up tanking, dropping by anywhere from 50% to 80% in the hardest hit spots. A wipeout that's hammering families even harder than the ugly mess back in 2008. Builders are freaking out. Buyers have vanished like someone turned off a switch. Investors who jumped in thinking they'd ride an easy wave of appreciation are now sprinting to unload properties before the whole foundation splits apart beneath them. From sun-baked suburbs to chill coastal towns, there's no bubble wrap anywhere. Nobody's safe from this mess. Years of home equity are evaporating in days, and hefty mortgage payments are crushing households that thought they'd be fine. That whole American dream thing kind of feels like it took a wrong turn and ended up as a late-night financial horror flick. These 10 markets aren't just in trouble, they're the beating heart of this meltdown, and yeah, the pain is still ramping up. Number 10, Denver, Colorado. The mile-high city has always been this irresistible mixed mountain views, breweries on every corner, a booming outdoorsy scene, and a growing tech crowd that couldn't get enough of the place. For years, Denver looked unstoppable, with prices climbing like crazy thanks to all the high-earning newcomers. Home values popped more than 50% since 2020, turning it into one of the priciest spots away from the coasts. But by 2025, that sky-high growth vibe has turned into a flashing red warning sign. If the economy keeps sliding downhill, Denver's market could tip into a full-blown 2008-style crash, with values dropping another 15% to 20% from where they already are. The problem is the city's engine, tech, is wobbling. Layoffs, hiring freezes, and shrinking teams mean fewer buyers with money to burn, and the folks who already bought in. A ton of them are stretched thin with debt-to-income ratios that were sketchy even before mortgage rates shot to 7%. Affordability's toast. Inventory is ballooning, up nearly 40% in a year, and houses that used to get snatched up are now sitting around for 75 days like nobody wants to take them home. If layoffs stack up and affordability collapses any further, Denver's housing market could get pummeled by too many listings and not enough wallets, wiping out equity the way we saw back in the Great Recession. Number 9, Sacramento, California. For a minute, Sacramento felt like the perfect escape hatch for folks fleeing the wild Bay Area prices. It was cheaper, calmer, and still close enough to the action. But that runaway migration wave pumped up Sac's market way past what local incomes could handle. Prices shot up more than 40% between 2020 and 2022, hitting a peak around $540,000. Fast forward to 2025, and the slide has begun. That median price has already slipped to about $450,000, a nasty 16 to 17% haircut, wiping out close to 90 grand in value. It's got real 2008 flashbacks written all over it. A market inflated by outside buyers, affordability stretched so thin it's practically transparent, and mortgage rates near 7% that make the numbers just stop adding up. The average Sacramento household bringing in roughly $75,000 is getting slammed, and inventory is spiking, up more than 45% year over year. Price cuts are everywhere. Bay Area buyers, who once flooded the place like a tidal wave, aren't coming in like they used to. Investors have hit the brakes too. Sacramento got burned badly in the last crash, and all the pieces are lining up for history to try its hardest to repeat itself. Number 8, Tampa, Florida. Tampa used to feel like the star quarterback of Florida real estate. Jobs booming, population exploding, sunshine for days. It became a hotspot in 2021 and 2022, pulling in remote workers, retirees, and Wall Street investors like someone was giving out free beachfront coupons. Prices soared to an average of around $383,000, burning way past what local wages could handle. But by 2025, That shine is fading fast. Prices have slipped down to roughly $360,000, but the real oh no moment is the inventory jump, more than 55% year over year. Homes that used to sell in a heartbeat now sit for 2 to 3 months. And the short-term rental market, total mess. Airbnb owners are tossing their properties back onto the market like hot potatoes because the profit margins have completely tanked. Investors who once bragged about passive income are cutting their losses. Mortgage rates around 7.5% have shoved a ton of regular buyers out of the ring, leaving Tampa overloaded with listings and not nearly enough people willing or able to buy them. If this keeps up, Tampa could be staring down a brutal correction that wipes out years of inflated gains. Number 7. Bakersfield, California. Nobody ever hyped Bakersfield as some glamorous hotspot, but what it did have going for it was affordability, and that turned out to be rocket fuel during the 2020 to 2022 housing mania. Folks ran from the insane prices of Los Angeles and the Bay Area, desperate for anything that didn't require selling a kidney to afford. Bakersfield, with its cheaper homes and endless empty land, welcomed the rush with open arms. Prices exploded from about $240,000 in 2019 to nearly $440,000 in 2022, a mind-blowing leap for a city that used to be considered budget-friendly. But by 2025, the wheels are flying off. Buyers have dried up and prices are slipping like a car on bald tires. The biggest red flag is the exact thing that used to be its strength, affordability. That edge has totally evaporated. The local wage scene didn't budge much, but housing doubled. Now a typical home comes with a mortgage north of $3,200 a month at 7% rates, way too steep for most local families who were already squeezing every penny. And here's another bomb. Nearly a quarter of all homes at one point were scooped up by investors hunting fast appreciation. That gamble went sideways. Investors are now panic selling, slashing prices by 50 to 100 grand just to stop the bleeding. If inventory keeps climbing and incomes don't catch up, Bakersfield could watch its home values nosedive by 60%, taking them all the way back to pre-2020 territory. That is not a correction. That is getting hit with the sequel to a crash nobody asked for. Number 6. Dallas, Texas. Dallas has been the poster child for unstoppable growth. Big companies moving in, booming suburbs, a reputation for endless opportunity. Everyone and their cousin seem to be relocating there. Prices shot up like fireworks, climbing 60 to 80% since 2020. Builders were cranking out homes faster than people could look at them, especially up north in places like Frisco, McKinney, and Prosper. You could practically feel the bubble inflating. But now in 2025, the vibe has flipped. If corporate expansions slow down, and they are, that means fewer high-income transplants, fewer tech jobs, and way less demand. Inventory is shooting up, about 45% higher than last year. Houses that used to get snatched up instantly are now chilling on the market for 75 days or more. Price cuts are everywhere you look. And remember all those investors who jumped in thinking they'd cash out with ease? Now they're trying to unload properties at the same time, flooding the market. The sheer size of Dallas makes this shift even scarier. When this giant sneezes, the whole region catches a cold. If this slowdown keeps snowballing, Dallas could see a broad, painful hollowing out that hits every layer of its housing market. Number 5. Sedona, Arizona. Sedona has always had that magic, the red rocks, the desert scenery, the artsy vibe, the confined your inner peace energy. Wealthy buyers flock there for second homes or cushy retirement spots, and that demand pushed median prices to around $850,000 at the peak. But in 2025, Sedona's bubble is popping loud enough to echo through the canyons. Luxury buyers are pumping the brakes hard. With mortgage rates stuck around 7%, folks with serious money are holding off on buying second homes, and the entire high-end market is slowing to a crawl. Inventory has climbed more than 35% year over year, and homes are sitting on the market for over 100 days, something almost unheard of during the boom. Multi-million-dollar listings are taking big price cuts just to get attention. Short-term rental investors are throwing in the towel too, since profits have dried up. And here's another headache: crazy high living costs. Some neighborhoods have stiff HOA fees, and insurance premiums have shot through the roof thanks to wildfire risk, in some cases jumping so much that owners simply can't justify staying. The result: Sedona's once glowing real estate scene now feels like a postcard from a deserted luxury resort, where too many high-priced homes are waiting for buyers who just aren't showing up. The retreat this time isn't spiritual, it's financial. Number 4. Las Vegas, Nevada. Vegas is all about taking risks, but this time the gamble went wrong. The city had a wild pandemic housing boom from 2020 to 2022, with prices leaping from around $290,000 to more than $460,000. That insane 58% jump was driven by outside investors, speculative flippers, and the lure of super cheap loans. But in 2025, the luck has run out. The Vegas housing market is spiraling downward like a busted roulette spin. Inventory has more than doubled in a year, flooding the market with homes that nobody's fighting over anymore. Houses that used to get multiple offers in a weekend now sit on the market for 3 or 4 months. Price cuts are everywhere. More than 40% of listings are slashing prices by $50 to $150,000. Overbuilding didn't help either. Developers added way too many homes, assuming never-ending demand. Now, the investors who bought those places are bailing fast. Rents are dropping, Airbnb profits have tanked, and high mortgage rates have turned investment properties into money pits. On top of that, Vegas still leans heavily on tourism jobs, many of which haven't fully bounced back. That leaves the market ultra-sensitive to any economic wobble. If this trajectory doesn't change, Vegas could be staring down a collapse that drags prices back to pre-2020 levels, a 60% drop that would hit like a sledgehammer. The dream of easy money in Vegas real estate, total mirage now. Number 3. Boise, Idaho. Boise isn't just cooling off, it's practically the poster child for the 2025 housing wipeout. This place went from hidden gem to full-blown frenzy during the pandemic. Between 2019 and 2022, home prices shot up from roughly $285,000 to almost $575,000, literally doubling in 3 years. It was one of the most extreme run-ups in the whole country. But what skyrockets that fast usually comes down twice as hard. By 2025, all the little cracks have split wide open. Inventory has blown up, and homes that once triggered chaotic bidding wars now sit for 140 to 150 days like nobody wants to touch them. During the boom, Boise was swamped with newcomers, remote workers escaping expensive metros, plus investors scooping up anything with a roof. Those purchases made sense only when prices kept climbing. Now they're underwater. Rents are slipping, mortgage payments are climbing, and the math just doesn't pencil out anymore. A bunch of those investors are panic dumping properties at deep discounts just to avoid even bigger losses. Meanwhile, regular Boise families can't catch a break. With rates over 7%, buying a normal home now runs over $3,800 a month, way out of reach for locals whose wages didn't rise during the boom. And then there's the overbuilding. Developers went wild throwing up subdivisions on the outskirts, and now those neighborhoods are filled with half-occupied streets and for sale signs on every block. Foreclosures are creeping back into the picture too, especially for folks who stretched thin with low down payments. Analysts are saying Boise could see a nasty 60% crash, landing right back at pre-2020 prices. It feels like 2008 all over again, but with even more people in dangerous positions. Boise isn't just slipping, it's leading the whole crash parade. Number 2. Cape Coral, Florida. Cape Coral was once hyped up as the last affordable, laid-back waterfront escape in Florida. And during the pandemic, the place absolutely blew up. Prices rocketed from around $230,000 in 2020 to over $470,000 in 2022, basically doubling in record time. But in 2025, Cape Coral's market is coming apart faster than almost anywhere else. Overbuilding is the biggest villain here. Developers went wild and stacked the area with new houses like they were prepping for a population explosion, but the buyers never showed up. Now, you've got whole blocks of nearly empty homes, and the builders trying to offload them are tossing out $60,000 incentives and covering insurance costs just to attract interest. Still not working, the beer pool is tapped out. And speaking of insurance, that's another financial gut punch. Flood risk has driven premiums to crazy numbers, with some homeowners paying more than $9,000 a year. Add in rising HOAs and spiking property taxes, and suddenly living in affordable waterfront paradise costs as much as a luxury city. Retirees are bailing, investors are bailing. The inventory is tripled compared to 2022 levels, and more than half the listings are taking big price hits. Homes are sitting longer and longer, and demand just isn't rebounding. If these forces keep stacking up, Cape Coral could crash below $200,000 again, wiping out massive chunks of equity. What used to be a chill dream spot is starting to look more like a trap full of financial quicksand, waiting for the next person to stumble in. Number 1. Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix isn't just having a bad year. It's barreling into another historic crash, almost like it's determined to relive 2008, but with more intensity. The pandemic boom turned Phoenix into one of the most overheated markets in the nation. Prices blasted from around $280,000 in 2019 to nearly $510,000 in 2022, an 82% jump that nobody with long-term sense believed was sustainable. And now in 2025, the entire structure is shaking. Inventory has basically exploded, quadrupled, and more than half the listings are slicing tens of thousands off the asking price. Houses that used to get 20 offers in 2 days are now sitting around for 90 to 120 days, like the music stopped and everyone walked out. And then you've got the investors. Phoenix became ground zero for big institutional buyers, iBuyers, flippers, and out-of-state landlords who bought homes sight unseen, thinking they'd be gold mines. Now those same properties are deep underwater. With rent slipping and mortgage payments rising, those fancy spreadsheets don't look so smart anymore. Investors are throwing homes back into the market at take it before I lose more prices. Local families aren't doing any better. With mortgage rates still above 7%, a typical payment on a median-priced home is north of $3,800, and incomes in Phoenix haven't kept up. A bunch of would-be buyers have completely tapped out, overbuilding compounds the mess. Areas like Buckeye, Maricopa, and Queen Creek are stuffed with unfinished or half-occupied subdivisions, and builders are dangling crazy incentives that drag prices down even more. Foreclosures are slipping back into the landscape too. FHA buyers, low down payment buyers, all the folks who stretched during the peak are starting to miss payments. Analysts think Phoenix could crash by 60%, landing right back at pre-2020 values. It's deja vu from the last housing crisis, only this time the overpricing is wider, the stakes higher, and the economic headwinds stronger. Phoenix isn't just part of the crash, it's steering the whole thing. The signs couldn't be clearer. What's happening in the 2025 housing market isn't a theory, a prediction, or some doomsday clickbait. It's real, it's happening in real time, and it's sweeping across the country like a storm nobody planned for. Towns, suburbs, and big-name cities that were once bragging about growth, migration, and rising prices are now overwhelmed with listings, endless price chops, and sellers who look like they're holding their breath every day, hoping the next mortgage bill doesn't break them. From dusty desert suburbs to beachside neighborhoods that once felt untouchable, this wave isn't skipping anybody. Equity is evaporating faster than it took to build. People who bought at the top are watching their home values shrink like a puddle under summer sun. Monthly mortgage payments, bloated by those ugly 7% rates, are crushing families who just wanted a piece of the American dream. That dream didn't totally disappear, but it definitely got twisted. It turned into a real-life wake-up call showing how fast things can flip. Builders who once bragged about wait lists are now slashing prices, adding incentives, and straight-up begging buyers to take homes off their hands. Buyers themselves, gone, sitting on the sidelines, checking the market from a safe distance. Investors who used to scoop up anything with four walls are now trying to unload their portfolios as fast as possible before prices dive further. It's like watching everyone head for the exits at once. So if you're thinking about buying in any of these markets, or honestly, in any overheated market right now, slow down, be smart, be picky, and bring receipts. Not every sunny ad or hyped-up neighborhood is a jackpot waiting to happen. Some places are barely holding the floor under their feet. Others might not recover for years, maybe longer. The safest money move right now might just be knowing where not to plant your roots. If you found this breakdown helpful, if it opened your eyes or gave you the info you needed, don't forget to toss a like. Share it with someone who's thinking about buying or selling, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next deep dive. We Lions catch you in the next video, and keep following the story of these markets as they shift, shake, and settle. Sometimes the smartest investment isn't chasing the dream, it's steering clear of the nightmare.